How did you get to your $2 million number?
2017, 2018, going into the campus bookstore, buying books off the clearance aisle, like off the clearance cart, and literally flipping them to Amazon for like gift cards. Like, buy this for 25, flip it for an Amazon gift card for like 70. It was pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to work 16 hours a day. They're good just 9 to 5 and then have their free time.
Exactly.
It goes back to what your definition of success is. Cheers.
So, cheers. Good to be here.
Welcome back to the Doughboys podcast. I'm your host, Logan, joined today by my co-host, Josh. Today we also have a special guest, Joji Davenport. I was able to meet Joji at the Miami Seller Conference a few months ago. So super excited to bring him on here to kind of talk about his journey, business model, all that good stuff. So Joji, thank you so much for joining, and would love if you could kind of kick us off by just giving everyone your background and who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Logan. I really appreciate it. So I'm a high school chemistry teacher. I'm 28 years old. Basically, I learned about Amazon when I was in my fourth year of college. I was basically 22 years old. I learned that you could flip books on Amazon. I think I learned from Steve Rakin, Reezy Resells, kind of the OGs in the space. And I learned that books are very valuable. Textbooks are very valuable. So unfortunately, I learned a little bit too late when I was getting my bachelor's degree. But when I went to get my master's degree to get a teacher's of education or a master's of education degree, I was on campus just flipping books all day. So I was in the Facebook marketplace groups on campus. There's a textbook exchange group. There's a free and for sale group. I was picking up like 10 books a day, probably on average. I was hustling like crazy. Probably got super strong because I was just carrying bags and bags of books. Even the campus bookstore would clearance off like really expensive textbooks. Long story short, I was basically able to cash flow my master's degree, graduate without any sort of debt. So I was able to pay off all of the debt from undergrad, also cash flow my master's degree, and then graduate without debt. And since then, I became a high school teacher. I've been teaching for the last 5 years. And in the last few years, I've kind of really ramped up online book arbitrage, which I know you're very familiar with online arbitrage, and online book arbitrage is just specifically focusing on books. But yeah, now that's what I kind of do. I have a 9 to 5, basically source on Amazon and eBay, and that's where I'm at.
Awesome. So whenever you first started out flipping books, were you selling them on Amazon or any other platforms?
I just actually went straight to Amazon. Yeah. Okay. There is actually you could actually sell books back to buyback companies as well, including Amazon. So back in the day, I think Amazon ended this in 2020, but they even had like a gift card program where you could literally buy a book and sell it to them for a gift card. And I remember this was 2017, 2018, going into the campus bookstore, buying books off the clearance aisle, like off the clearance cart, and literally flipping them to Amazon for like gift cards. Like, buy this for 25, flip it for an Amazon gift card for like 70. It was pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah. That's cool. So did you have any software when you were just getting started, or was it all manual? How were you knowing that the stuff was good?
Yeah, I was actually just using the Amazon seller app. So I was literally just on Facebook Marketplace in the textbook exchange groups for specifically the school I went to. And anytime a new book would pop up, I literally just scan it with my phone, like scan the image of the book with my phone. And yeah, I don't even know if you could scan the image at the time. I might have been actually typing up the name of the book, maybe in Amazon Seller Central. Basically, I just went off very basic sales rank metrics. I was like, okay, if this thing's under 1 million sales rank in books, it's probably going to sell. And then just doing some very basic math, like, hey, the lowest used price in Amazon is $70. Now I can buy it for $20 from the student, and that's kind of the way I work. So in the beginning, didn't use any software at all other than just selling the books on Amazon and using the Amazon Seller Central app. Now, because I'm a high school teacher, I can't really go to a college bookstore. So now I just source online using Keepa. So, Keepa Product Finder, Keepa Deals page, Keepa Track Product Feature. There's also a software called FlipMine that I use for eBay to Amazon. But in the beginning, didn't use any software at all.
And knowing what you know now, you think you lost money on some of those books? Or just because you were getting them so cheap? Probably not.
Probably a little bit. Yeah, I have a lot more experience now. I wouldn't say too much, though. One of the people who got me into is Caleb Roth as well. I'm sure you guys know who Caleb Roth is.
Yeah.
And he was very big into Keepa charts. And so I studied under him or under his YouTube videos. And so I learned quickly about like textbook seasonality, basic understanding of supply and demand. So I probably left a little bit of money on the table because I do know a lot more now. But I would say I was still at that time understanding, hey, I should send these in during a specific time and try to sell them during a specific time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Timing.
I want to second that Caleb Roth note. Like, if you guys are listening and you're interested in books, go consume every single piece of content that Caleb Roth has ever put out. The guy is like a genius. He's able to put it out in such a easy to follow method. So he has Facebook group, YouTube, all that. Definitely go and check out his software that he founded a software company and sold it, Scout IQ. Shout out Scout IQ. Did you ever use Scout IQ, by the way?
I never did. I never needed to
Wow.
because Scout IQ is mainly for scanning bulk, like high volume. And for me, I was more cherry picking. So,
Yeah.
I was going directly to the source, books that were have value north of $50, not really books that you're going to sell for $10 or $12 and just try to make a couple bucks on. So for me, it was never necessary. With that said, Scout IQ was obviously a major value add to the entire community. It'll let people who's just the everyday person who doesn't really know anything about books just learn about some very important metrics that are not that hard to understand and sell books at scale. So awesome software that they put together, but no, I never ended up needing it.
It's crazy good. Like I used to do some books too. It's never a huge part of my business, but I always had some fun with it, going around to thrift stores and stuff. And it's just like night and day difference, me manually doing it and then me just putting in my headphones, scanning it, and Scout IQ makes a beep in my ear if it's good.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah.
So my question is, were you known on campus as like the book guy? Like people were like, oh yeah, that's the guy that buys the books.
No, I was kind of awkward about it. I was probably really
Okay.
I should have done that. Like talking to Warner. Talking to Warner Fields now. He built a business around it. Even Victor Gallegos, he built a business around it, said, I'm the guy. I was kind of like, dude, is what I'm doing legal? Like, I feel like I'm ripping people off, like scamming people.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like some people might think that's what I was doing. It's like, so I was kind of on the down low. I wasn't, out there saying, hey, I'm buying your books, I'm going to flip on Amazon, or I wasn't going, I wasn't out there saying I have a business doing this. So, knowing what I know now about YouTube and starting to try to build a brand, at least, I realized I would have been way more successful if I had done that and kind of came out of my shell. But no, I was kind of just, this is how crazy it was. I would literally have a notebook, which each person's name written down in 5-minute intervals. So I would meet them between each other. So they wouldn't all come at the same time. And so I was like, I'm meeting you at 12:05, you at 12:10, you at 12:15, you at 12:20, you at 12:25. And so, I don't know what I was thinking.
You're like, I got the money, you got the book.
Exactly. I got the money, you got the book.
What was your relationship with those people then? Did you just buy it up front? Did you ever do any kind of commission stuff?
Yeah, I did mostly just buy it up front. I always had the cash, so I was like, hey, I'll just buy, I'll give you $25 for this book, $40 for these books, whatever. And then I would just, take it in my house, ship them to Amazon, do it that way. I did a little bit of commission for somebody who was at the time gated in popular textbooks, and he sold some of his popular textbooks on my account before I got gated in popular textbooks. So I did a little bit of the commission game. I was also a little bit scared to do that just because I wasn't sure of the tax implications. Again, it was kind of like I didn't know what I didn't know in terms of the commission. So looking back on it now, I think the commission business model is great because, I mean, you're getting inventory for free and you're just paying obviously you're probably paying more of a percentage to that person, but I didn't do too much. I did a little bit though.
Cool. Yeah, I know Caleb talked about how that was kind of beneficial to his business, setting up relationships with like different people, libraries, all that, people who have a lot of books, and then just kind of setting up commission relationship. And he made like a whole spreadsheet for it too,
crazy.
he sold it, but yeah,
he still has that available, the tracking spreadsheet. And I don't actually use my own spreadsheet, but heard a lot of great things specifically for consignment. And if I was ever going to get in consignment, I definitely would buy that spreadsheet.
Yeah. So you have a 9-to-5. I'd love to kind of hear about your time management, between that, the business, YouTube, family endeavors, all that different stuff. How do you manage your time?
Ooh, yeah, it's something that's hard to balance, but I have an 8-month-old son as well. Basically, my sourcing and my Amazon business has to be done between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. and 10:30 p.m. at midnight. So basically, that's when I'm working on the Amazon business. Outside of that time, I'm at school teaching, or I'm hanging out with my boy and hanging out with my wife, doing family stuff. Obviously, on the weekends, I have a little bit more time to do Amazon, but specifically, that's what I do on the weekdays. So basically, the goal is to get 6 hours of sleep from basically midnight to 6 a.m. And then during those times, work on the business. And that's kind of even YouTube as well, right? So kind of has to mix between all that.
So you're just hustling.
Just hustle, man. I mean, it goes back to the college. It's just, if you really want it and everyone obviously comes through life with a different hand of cards, but it's like, if you really want it, you can do it, but it definitely takes sacrifice, takes work. So I am by no means someone who you should say is like, wow, you're doing an amazing job, because there's tons of people out there doing it way more hard than I am and hustling way more.
Yeah. And also ties into like what the individual specific goals are. a lot of people don't want to work 16 hours a day. They're good just 9 to 5 and then have their free time
Exactly.
whenever. It goes back to what your definition of success is. And then,
Exactly.
kind of going along with that, Joji, I would love to hear, what is your why? What is your goal behind having this Amazon business, working so hard and all that? What are you ultimately doing it for? What is your end goal?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been about financial freedom, financial independence. So I'm part of the FIRE community. So if you don't know, FIRE is financial independence, retire early. And my wife and I have a goal to retire by 35 with a $2 million net worth. So right now we're 28 years old and we think we're on track to hit it. So really the whole goal of the Amazon business is just to pay for all of our living expenses. So then I can literally take all of the money I make from my teaching income, like literally not take a penny of it, and invest it all IRA, 457 or 403B, taxable accounts. And my wife can do the same and basically just invest well over $100,000 a year, do that for a set period of time. And like, if you do that and you're disciplined, it's like, you'll get to a point where you have amassed a net worth that it only, returns 7-8% per year on average, but like 7% of a large number is like a lot of
Yep.
money. So,
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
40K on 2 million.
yeah, exactly. So that's my why is, I feel like I'm good at doing this Amazon thing. I feel like I can, in basically 2 hours a day during the week and maybe 3 hours a day on the weekend, or 3 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday. So maybe 10-15 hours a week. Like, I could literally make enough money to completely pay for all of our living expenses, and then everything else just gets invested in the stock market.
All right, I really want to dive into this FIRE. I like it.
Yeah.
So first off, I want to dive a little deeper in, why is FIRE the goal? What would achieving FIRE mean to you?
Yeah, that's great. It really comes back to time. I've always been, maybe to my detriment a little bit, I've been so kind of maybe even obsessed with time. Like, a lot of people around me, especially my students, because I do something called a Finance Friday where I teach them about finances every Friday in high school, because I think that's an important
Yeah.
concept that, high school students don't get. But, people think that I'm obsessed with money. I'm really more obsessed with time. And it's like, at the end of the day, you only have a set number of days on this earth. So I would rather spend those days doing the thing that I want to do. And I'm arguably at the point where I could already do that. Like, I was telling my wife the other day, like, we could literally both quit our jobs right now, just continue living at our current living expenses, and we could not need to work for like 7 years at all. And like, we would still have money left over. So it's like, for me, it's always been, I want to be able to spend the time doing the things I want to do. So right now I'm a high school teacher. I enjoy doing that. I don't see that as a long-term thing. So it's something I want to move out of. I really like doing this YouTube thing. I like doing Amazon. So for me, it's more about freedom to choose what I want to do, rather than have to go to a job like you mentioned, because that's what's expected of me. You know what I mean?
To quote J. Cole, it's not about money, it's more about time.
It's more about time. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Cool. So yeah, let's talk about FIRE some more. So what is your like actions towards getting to that FIRE goal? What
Yeah.
types of investments are you making? Just give us the rundown.
Yeah. I mean, so the number one principle is that you have to save money and you have to live very frugally. You have to save a large percentage of your income. So on any given month, my wife and I are saving anywhere between the low 70s to like the mid 80% of our income. She also does like social media work, so her income's pretty variable as well, but she actually makes a pretty good living as well. So first step is you got to save a large percentage of your income, which means either you have to make a lot of freaking money or you have to live frugally and also make a lot of money. So we're in the boat where we actually make a pretty decent amount of money. And also we don't live on very much money. Like, we live pretty frugally. We don't really need a ton of stuff. So that's the first thing, is you got to save a lot of money. The second thing is just pick really simple, basic investments like the S&P 500 or a total stock market index fund, where your literal goal is just to get a 7% after inflation return for 10, 20, 30, 50 years. And if you do that over a long period of time and you let compound interest do its work, it's pretty amazing, like how much money that could grow into. So it's really simple. Just be super disciplined, save a lot of money, invest it in one vehicle, which is just, we invest in the total stock market index fund with Vanguard, really low expense ratio, and just let it ride, man. Just do it consistently over time.
Is that your entire portfolio, just the S&P 500?
We have a little bit of bonds. So we bought like some of the Series I bonds, I think last year, when it was like 9% for a bond, which was like pretty insane. But yeah, we're pretty much almost all just VTSAX, almost 100% VTSAX. There's also target date retirement funds, which I guess we could do as well. But for me, it's like, dude, just stick it all in the total stock market. I'm betting on the US economy over the next 50 years. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. People like to overcomplicate investing. Like, the best way to do it is exactly what you just said. Time in the market beats timing the market. pick good, go wide that S&P 500, and then over a long period of time, you're going to see that 7-8% return.
I was about to
Yeah,
say.
go for it. Go
My
ahead, Josh.
good friend Logan says, "Time in the market beats timing."
Well, what's really fascinating is I'm sure you've both heard of Alex Hormozy. He has this quote. He says,
Yeah.
"Not the S&P 500, it's the SME 500," which I think is a really interesting idea to invest in yourself rather than S&P 500. And I totally agree with what he says if you don't have very much money. But I also want to let people know that if you have a lot of money, like 7% per year on average is a lot of freaking money. So it's a lot of, so people always ask me like, Joji, why don't you just take all the money you have and just buy a whole bunch of books? Where it's like, I'm going to get to the point where I don't literally have to do anything, make more money than what my Amazon business makes now anyways. And I have to do all this work for it, right? So it's all about building that big snowball so that eventually the investment returns are like significantly larger than the average household income in this country.
Yeah.
So your goal with that when you're 35 with your family and your son and all that, travel the world, move, what's the...
Yeah, a lot of mainly just opportunity things. Like one thing we might want to do is move to Vietnam. Maybe I can get a teaching job in Vietnam so we could also live there cheaply. I mean, I wouldn't need to work. I think it's more so, it's like a game, honestly. It's like, I know that this thing exists. I think it'd be really cool to hit that number. And at some point, it's like, it's probably more about the process than it is the end goal anyways. Because at this point in time, like, I don't need the job. I don't need the Amazon job. Like, I don't need, my teaching job. Obviously, I'd want one or the other, but like we could live very comfortably off of our lifestyle with the amount of money we already have invested. So I guess it's more about the process. What would I do? I would definitely not stop working, even though it's like I want to retire by 35.
Right.
Really, I want to get to the point where the amount of money that our investments make far outweighs the amount we need for living expenses. So the point at which technically you would never ever need to work again, but obviously you can tell I'm a pretty motivated person. So I'm not going to just sit on the couch and do nothing. It's more like I'm going to explore other opportunities and have a lot less risk doing it because, if I do YouTube, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make money or, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah. How did you get to your $2 million number?
Yeah, that's a good question. It just sounds like a nice round 2 million, like 2 million, 4% withdrawal rate, $160,000 a year. That's a pretty crazy income. And we basically live on a little over $3,000 a month. So right around 40 grand per year. So, I mean, that would already be like 4X what our current living expenses are. So it's kind of just, we already started at a really good place, having quite a bit of money. And we just felt like, well, at least I guess it was kind of me arbitrarily. It's like, technically we're at the point where we could probably squeeze it out and we're not quite fire, but we're almost there. So do I really want to be living that tightly? No, I think 2 million is just like, it's even further beyond what we really technically need, but I think it's just a round number and sounds good.
Yeah, cool. Someone might be curious, why are you going with a 4% draw rate?
Yeah. So, I mean, just if you look at kind of the fire community, the very basic rule of thumb is like, if you would draw 4% of your, total portfolio every single year, and you get 7% after inflation, like technically your money would never run out. Like your money would actually grow even as you start withdrawing 4% a year. Now there's a lot of like nuance between, should it really be 4% or should it be 3.75% or 3.5%? Like it doesn't really matter. Like $2 million is already well beyond what we would need, even at a 4% withdrawal rate. So I don't really want to get caught up in the little minutia. It's like, will I stop working? Also, probably not. Will I still be making other forms of passive income? Probably. So it's like, I think there's a lot of these things in the fire community where people get really worked up about why is it 4% and not 3.85%? When it's really like, there's all these other things that, a lot of people forget about. So for me, I think that even when we do retire, I'm still gonna be doing something. I'm gonna be making passive income, doing stuff. Like, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the program called Merch by Amazon, but started that back up in 2016 and still make like a couple $100 a month doing that, even though I've never even made a shirt since like 2018. So it's like, there's little things that can make passive income for you still that will generate income and even in early retirement.
Yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, retirement, go like sit on a beach somewhere, but really like you're hitting the nail on the head because a lot of people, as soon as you stop, like Logan and I will say this, if you're not growing, you're dying. Exactly. And it kind of sounds like aggressive, but when you think about it and you learn like human anatomy or just kind of like what you're saying, you're a driven person, you learn about that. If you just stop all of a sudden, like look at old people, that's when they start doing poorly health-wise. Look at the old people that are doing well. It's because they keep on like working to keep doing stuff, moving, whatever that is, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Yeah, I like your message. It's good.
Yeah, great insight.
So yeah, Joji, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me just at Joji Davenport. So I mean, we didn't really talk too much about it. Talk a lot about fire, which was fascinating. But I sell books. So I do online book arbitrage. Basically, I buy books on Amazon that are undervalued. I do that by reading keepographs and then flip them back on Amazon for a profit. But yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Joji Davenport. I also have an Instagram, Joji_Davenport. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I'd love to see you over there. Appreciate the shout out.
Awesome. Yeah, and you do some live sourcing almost every week, right?
Yeah, so every Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m. PST. Again, why so early? Because I've got a boy and I'd rather spend my time with him. So when he's sleeping, that's when I like to do this stuff. So yeah, 6:30 a.m. PST. If you're on the West Coast, sorry, you can always watch replay. Helps for watching. And if you're on the East Coast, then hey, 9:30 a.m. Perfect to get a nice cup of coffee. Waking up at that time probably anyway. So tune in.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, definitely go check out Joji on social media. Viewers, thank you so much for listening. Joji, thank you so much for joining us. See you on the next one. Peace.
Later.